Hi, this is King of Review. In this problem, we're asked to find the product of matrix X times matrix Y, and we're given X and Y here. So what is a matrix? A matrix is a rectangular arrangement of numbers in rows and columns. So what we want to do here is multiply these two matrices together. So X times Y. So we have matrix X, which is 1, 2, 1, -4, 5, and 0. And we're multiplying it by matrix Y, which is 1, 2, -1, 3, 0, -2. Before you multiply matrices together, you must make sure it's allowed by knowing if it's defined or not. So what we're going to do is take the dimensions of the first matrix, so row by column of the first matrix, and compare it to the dimensions of the second matrix, so row by column of the second matrix. To know if the product is defined or not, you're going to compare the number of columns in matrix 1 with the number of rows in matrix 2. If these numbers are equal, then the product is defined. So defined if equal. So these two numbers must be equal in order for you to multiply the matrices together. And then if you compare the number of rows in matrix 1 with the number of columns in matrix 2, these will become the new dimensions of your product. So dimensions of the product. So it'll be the number of rows in matrix 1 by the number of columns in matrix 2. So let's first see if we are allowed to multiply matrix X times matrix Y. The dimensions of matrix X, well, it has 3 rows and it has 2 columns. So we call it a 3 by 2. Now let's look at matrix Y. Matrix Y has 2 rows and 3 columns, so we call it a 2 by 3. The first thing, let's check if the product will be defined. These two numbers here must be equal. Yes, these are equal, therefore we know we can go ahead and multiply these matrices together. Now let's figure out what the dimensions of the product will be. Well, then we look at these here. So we know that the product will be a 3 by 3 because we're looking at these numbers here, a 3 by 3. So the first thing we're going to do is set up the multiplication for the matrices here. So what we're going to do is to multiply corresponding entries in the first row of X and the first column of Y, and then we're going to add those two products together. So we're going to set up something like this. We're going to add the two products together. So let's do that. What we have here is 1 times 1, so 1 times 1, plus 2 times 3, so 2 times 3. And this is our first entry, 1 times 1 plus 2 times 3. So we multiplied the corresponding entries in the first row of X and the first column of Y. We got those two products, and then we're adding them together. So let's continue in this fashion to find the other 8 entries. So the next one, let's just start by setting up this portion here. So we're going to multiply 1 by 1, so 1 times 1, plus -4 times 3. -4 times 3. So the second entry is 1 times 1 plus -4 times 3. And now this third entry of column 1, this is going to be 5 times 1. So 5 times 1 plus 0 times 3. 0 times 3. So this is the third entry here in column 1. So what we need to do is continue in the same fashion for column 2. I'm just setting these up here, and we're going to do the same thing for column 3. So I'm just setting up how we're going to calculate these entries by doing this. So you see that this will give us a 3 by 3 product, 3 rows and 3 columns. So now let's look at column 2. Let's work on these entries next. So we have 1 times 2. 1 times 2 plus 2 times 0. And now for the next entry, we have 1 times 2. 1 times 2 plus negative 4 times 0. Negative 4 times 0 here. So that's from negative 4 times this 0 here. And the last entry is 5 times 2 plus 0 times 0. So you can see the pattern here, how we're setting up each entry. Now let's move on to column 3. This will be 1 times negative 1. So 1 times negative 1 plus 2 times negative 2. 2 times negative 2. The next entry is 1 times negative 1 plus negative 4 times negative 2. And then we have, for the very last entry, 5 times negative 1 plus 0 times negative 2. So now we've set up the math that we need to do to calculate each of the entries. And now let's just compute each of these entries. So the first entry here, 1 times 1 plus 2 times 3. This is 1 plus 6, or 7. Now let's look at this one. We have 1 times 1 plus negative 4 times 3. This is a 1 plus a negative 12, and this gives us negative 11 for that entry. Then we have 5 times 1 plus 0 times 3. This is 5 plus 0, or 5. Now moving on to column 2, we have 1 times 2 plus 2 times 0. This is 2 plus 0, or 2. 1 times 2 plus negative 4 times 0 is 2 plus 0, or 2. 5 times 2 plus 0 times 0. This is 10 plus 0, or 10. And column 3. 1 times negative 1 plus 2 times negative 2 is negative 1 plus a negative 4, or negative 5. And we'll continue here. We get 7 here. And the last entry is negative 5. So letter D is correct. Thanks for watching.